think that is it. If I'm missing you, we are very excited to have you as a new member. Please come on up if I'm missing you and meet you up in this group. We are so excited to have a wonderful group of new members representing Christ-centered business leadership in the state of South Carolina. I urge you to send in Freddie. I keep telling you this, but we really are right on the cusp of launching our new website. It will be in the same location, scchristianchamber.org. Look at the old website and check on the new website. We're launching a new, better, faster, more bells and whistles website that will be much more interactive and will help let you know what is going on in the state of South Carolina and help you be on top of business leadership for Christ in the state of South Carolina. We also have a phone app that is SC Christian Chamber that is free. Download that. You'll find all your information there as a new member. And we want to network the state of South Carolina so that we can be united for Christ, as William and Freddie like to point out, that we can effect wonderful things for Christ in our state. And I think I keep cutting out and coming in, but that's just me. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you all. Wonderful to have you as a new member. Great. Okay? And I think we have a little video that shows you just a little bit of the excitement of what is going on as the fastest growing chamber in the state of South Carolina to take over the state of South Carolina for Christ through their talents in the business world. I have heard from the Freissle group to discipline. I think William will be promoting later about a time of prayer at the State House that we will want to promote. And there will be all kinds of messages coming out to educate you on what is going on in the state as far as opportunities to share your faith. Last, I told you about Freddie and launching the new Christian Chamber website. Seems like there was one other thing I was forgetting, but I'm sure that William will take care of that for me in the end. Thank you so much. You're a great group, and we're so excited and thankful that you were able to come today. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. It's such exciting growth. Thank you to all of you who joined the South Carolina Christian Chamber of Commerce. It's good that the two speakers, well, Peter Freissle is our keynote today. I get to be your MC, and we're finally both official. So that's good, Peter. We're both part of the chamber. And guys, as I've said all along, every meeting we've had in Greenville and in Spartanburg, if there's going to be revival in the state of South Carolina, and William has said this over and over as well, I truly believe it comes through the marketplace. How many of you all agree with that? And it's not that I'm beating up on churches or ministers, because there are a lot of great engaged churches and ministers. But we need to be focused on taking the kingdom of God and bringing it into the kingdom of man. You can't find a better way to do that than to incorporate those principles into business, into our public life, into the culture of our state. It's an old expression, you know, that somebody's so earthly minded that they're heavenly good. That's not a good thing. But we can also be so heavenly minded we're no earthly good, and we've got to make sure that we understand that when Jesus came and he said that the kingdom of God is here, it wasn't just when we die, it wasn't just in the second coming. The kingdom of God is here, and it's our job to advance that kingdom in the kingdom of man, and that's what we're trying to do with the FC Christian Chamber of Commerce. Even on the day after my Clemson Tigers didn't win the national championship, we have reasons to be encouraged, right? With that, I'm going to invite Bobby McDonald up. He is the chairman of the South Carolina Christian, director of the South Carolina Christian Foundation, and they are a major charitable arm to help ministries across our state. They have a banquet coming up soon, so Bobby, come on up.
Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. On your table, you will find a card like this. Now, let me tell you what that card is all about. Annually, the South Carolina Christian Foundation hosts an annual banquet each year. And at that banquet, it is not a fundraising banquet. How many people have ever been to a non-fundraising banquet? We call it the unbanquet because there's no cost to you. It is a free meal. It is hosted at the Embassy Suites over on Verde. This is our 5th banquet, and at that banquet, we will give out over $120,000 to local ministries that are doing good work right here in Greenville. This is an opportunity for you, as a Christian business leader in this community, to come, sit back, and enjoy an evening where we celebrate what God is doing right here in Greenville. And He's doing it through local ministries. It's an opportunity for you to see what ministries are operating here, what good work is being done, and perhaps if you have an inclination to either get engaged, even through your financial giving, or even through your volunteering and your time. But there is absolutely 100% no solicitation. Because of all of that, it is by invitation only. And so we ask that if you are interested in attending and participating, that you would take a minute and simply give us your physical address, your name and guest, and the invitations will be going out very soon. The banquet is on March 1st. And the registration will be happening. But if you would like to participate, and I encourage you to attend, we'd love to have you and host you. Please take a moment to fill out this card and leave it on your table or get it to me. Jeff Nolan from the Christian Foundation is here as well. Sherry Schilling is at the back. Anyone can take this card from you and get it to me, and we'll make sure you get invited. We would love to have you attend. So please be a guest of the South Carolina Christian Foundation. It's a wonderful way, again, much like we did here, to connect business with ministry to make a kingdom impact right here in our community. So take some time to do that. Thank you so much.
Bobby and his organization, they're among my favorite people, because if you can help fund ministries and advance the cause of Christ while minimizing a tax liability, that's a good thing. How many of you all believe that 10% is good enough for God? It should be for the Internal Revenue Service. Well, I won't go any further. You can ask me afterwards. Again, what this is all about, these meetings are all about making sure you all network with one another and that we're able to make a collective impact. As I introduce Peter Freissle, let me give you an example. I've been in the banking world and the political talk radio world both for a long time. When you spend a lot of time around politics, as Lisa Van Wyper, Alexa Newman know, you meet some interesting folks. When you spend time in banking, you meet the same interesting folks, because bankers and lawyers almost always involve in politics, I believe. And one of the competitors that I've dealt with in the past, I used to work for this company, we'll use their name out of it. This is an illustrative example. After some of the issues came up about marriage and sexuality, I had a very dear friend who was in a small group with me at the church I attended here in Greenville. I go to First Baptist North Spartanburg, now over in Spartanburg, but I went to Taylor School. The young man who got out of college, got a nice job in the bank, and wanted to live out his faith at work, and that's what he did. He shared his faith with his coworkers, and he prayed with his coworkers, and he had little sticky notes. And every day, Every time he'd go to small group, he'd come back and he'd post a little Bible verse on his computer. Well, his supervisor told him he couldn't do that because that was offensive to non-believers, and he was not allowed to post a Bible verse in his cube at work because that was company property. 2 weeks later, this same young man was forced to participate, and I'm not making this up, he was forced to participate in a celebration of co-workers who decided to announce that they were gay lesbians. Now, look, we're not here to be hateful about anybody. We love all people and Christ love all people. But if you don't believe that there is pressure for people to choose between their principles and their paycheck, then we're being naive. There's a lot of pressure coming. How many of y'all notice that? There's pressure in American society today, unlike any moment in the history of this country, for people being asked to choose between their principles and their paycheck. I think that's un-American. And we need business owners and business leaders to stand up and say, you know, there's not this secular sacred split where you only go to church on Sunday and then the rest of the week you have to deny that you know anything about Christ. And that's why I love Peter Freissle. Because Peter is the president of Polydeck Screen Corporation. And this is a large company here in South Carolina. It employs over 300 folks in the United States and Chile and Peru. International businessman. And Peter came to Spartanburg, South Carolina, in South Africa in 1994. Now, Peter, that was sort of like when Abraham was called out of Ur to go to the promised land, right? Now, through his company's been incredibly successful. This is one of the strongest companies in our market. But Peter realized that the secular sacred split doesn't need to happen, so along with several other Christian business leaders, he has formed a nonprofit organization known as His Way at Work to help other businesses learn how to integrate their faith, integrate their principles in the way they run their companies. And if we could just get more businesses to do this, if we could get more business owners to follow this example, I don't think we'd have nearly the problems we have in this country today. Amen? Amen. I'm a banker who likes an amen every once in a while. So with that, please welcome Peter Freissle, the president of Polydeck Screen Corporation. We are Peter. Well, good afternoon to all of you, and probably by my accent, I give away in a few seconds that I'm not from Southern Alabama. I come from a long, long way south, and that's in South Africa. And it's a privilege for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is a wonderful opportunity to share some of the things that our company, Polydeck, we're in the mining industry. We provide equipment for mines all over the world. Copper, gold, diamond, aggregate, roads. We supply companies like Vulcan Materials, Hanson, Martin Marietta. So we're involved in many, many different mining type of industries. I'm here today to share my story with you. It's a simple story. It's not a fancy story, but as Mother Teresa says, we can do no great things, but we can do a lot of little things with great love. And that's what the story is really all about. It's not a big thing. It's a lot of little things that we've done, but maybe a different to what other companies have done, and it's a little bit unique. I'm really grateful. My walk has been very much influenced by others. There's a saying that the law of significance, there's nothing you can do in life that amounts to anything significant for you on your own. And part of my story here I attribute to William. When I first changed the direction that I was going in, I was a very lousy boss for many years. I treated people in a secular way. I treated them really badly. And I came to a new understanding of what God was calling me to do. And God put my brother here, William, beside me. His company is probably a few hundred yards from ours. And he was able to coach me and to share with me what he had done for many, many years. And so some of what you're going to hear today is attributable to William. So William, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for being my friend and for being my coach. I really appreciate it. What I'm going to talk about today is kind of broken into three parts. One is my personal journey, because without a personal belief that Christ is the master of the universe and that your company is owned by Him,
you can't do any of this. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my personal journey, how I was before, and what happened to change me. And then to tell you a little bit about why we do what we do. It's because God owns our company and it's a ministry. So what do we do that's different? And I'll share that with you. And then we'll put into place how we do it. And the how is the tricky part, because many business owners will tell you, I have a Christian company. But when you dig down, there's no evidence. It may be in the owner's mind, but if I go to the average employee, my kind of acid test is, if I go to the janitor in your company, what will he tell me? Will he tell me that the CEO loves him, that Christ is the center of that business? That's the first person I go to. We do this a lot. I try and coach and help several CEOs to find their meaning and purpose. And that's who I go to. I go to the janitor. Ask him. You'd be surprised what he'll tell you, or she will tell you. So really what today is about is telling you about practical ways, not theoretical ways, practical ways of really caring for, and as the slide says, loving your neighbor. Christ gives us that commandment, love your neighbor. Who's your neighbor? So until you realize that your neighbor is your employees, your co-workers, that's where the paradigm changes. So that's what really this is all about. A little bit of history. My dad started our company when he was 19 years old. This is a picture of him in South Africa, coming from Germany as a refugee from the Second World War. And you've heard people say that many companies start in a garage from scratch. Well, there's his little savings book. You'll see there's a little thing over there that has a 1 in it. That 1 is the very first dollar. Back then, South Africa was pounds. The first pound that was put into the savings account. And really, this was the garage that he started. And with that savings, once he had a certain amount of savings, he decided to build our business up not on debt, but on cash. And so he only built as fast, or as far and as fast as he could, based on revenue. So when they had enough money, he and a partner, this was the first motorized vehicle that he had, and it was a little 2-wheel scooter that he drove around. That was the first company car that he had, and that's how he started the business. Today, this is our facility here in Spartanburg. This is our main campus, our global headquarters for administration, and then this is our facility here for manufacturing. We've got this one and back there too. And this is our facility down in Santiago, Chile, and we have another one in Peru, in a place called Arequipa. So our company has grown tremendously, and so a little bit about me. I had to make a decision when I was growing up whether I was going to leave South Africa and come to the US or stay in South Africa. And after a lot of prayer, I said, God, I need you. This is a big decision for me. Can you help guide me? And kind of sometimes be careful what you pray for. I stopped at a red light a few weeks after that, and a car pulled out in front of me, and I thought, this is weird. Why is this car stopping in front of me? And 2 guys jumped out the back with AK-47 machine guns and emptied those machine guns into my car. And I want to show you a little bit about, that may sound like a kind of a story, but let me show you what that looks like. See, there's a little hole over there which looks very insignificant, but let me show you the next one. That's where the bullet exited the door. It's an armor-piercing bullet. Let me show you how God works. I didn't realize until I got to the hospital that the bullet had actually gone through the front of my shirt and through the side. That's how close it came. So I want to ask you this. If you're driving at 30 miles an hour and someone empties a machine gun into your car and the bullet goes through your shirt but does not hurt you, do you think that's coincidence? No. That's God's incidence. And if you've ever heard the voice of God in your ears, I heard it through the bullets of a gun. And that night I said, God, thank you very much for your answering my prayer. I know now what you want me to do. But in future, we could kind of answer prayers without any violence. Right? So be careful how you pray. So now I end my prayers always with God, please help and guide me, but without violence. So, kind of a little humor, but I came here to the US and I started our business. And many of you going to college doing MBAs or whatever the case may be, your professors will tell you what success looks like. It's kind of the American dream, right? And this is the American dream. This is what I understood it to be. Having all these things. Fancy house, cars, toys, all these things. I chased it. And I forgot God. And I became a secular CEO that ran the business in a really mean way. I would treat people in ways that I don't even want to explain. Some of my employees will remind me many times, Peter, remember what you were like. And I was a very mean person. And in many ways, William has said it many times, I used people to make money. I stomped on them, I treaded on them, whatever was necessary, I did to forward the interest of the company and almighty dollar. And I'm ashamed to say that I abused people. I used foul language, I abused them, and it wasn't a pretty place. Until one day, after having achieved all this, all the financial success that I ever dreamed of, I felt empty. I felt there was a hole in my heart. I said, is that it? Is that what life is about? Chasing this and you get everything that you asked for? Do you feel empty? That sucks. So I said, what do we do? So I went on a retreat, a silent retreat, 3 days. I was kind of, the reason I went on that retreat was I thought 3 days of silence away from the kids, away from the business. I brought my golf magazines and everything to the retreat. Boy, it wasn't that way at all. God shouted at me for 3 days. And at the end of those 3 days, I came up with a simple realization that this was me. The retreat master said to me, I want you to, who do you worship? I said, of course, I'm a Christian, I worship God. He said, no, take your life and divide it up, and I encourage you to do that. Divide it up into where you spend your time and your resources. That's what you really worship. And so I did it. And look what happened. I had this crazy drawing here. God had a little slice. He had a little bit on Sunday. I'd get dressed up, sit in the front pew with my family, my 4 kids, and I was doing my Christian obligation. Then, family, I would spend some time with them, but only a limited amount of time because I was traveling, trying to build a business, right? Social responsibility, I, in my mind, thought I can abuse people, I can get money, as long as I give some of that money to some ministry, I kind of balance the checkbook, right? And I take care of God. Give him something, take care of him, and kind of like hush money. And the rest of the time, where was it spent? Doing what's important to me. Selfishness had overcome me, and I'd forgotten what and who I was. Until in that retreat, I realized for the first time that God is not a slice. God is the center of your life. Amen. He needs to be the core. And from that point, everything should emanate. And I didn't realize it. I thought as long as I did my slice, I was dealing with God in a way that I felt comfortable. But God was not the center. And so once I realized this, I realized, where is God in my business? Over here, you can see that business is divided. There's a little barrier, right? And you feel comfortable. I have these compartments. And I could box God into a compartment and say, you have Sunday mornings, buddy. Don't come mess with me on Monday because that's mine. But when I saw this new paradigm, everything changed for me. And so what I realized was, who was I really? I've coined this as a submarine Christian. On Sundays, my submarine would surface. I would open the hatch. I'd be in front of all these people in church doing the politically Christian correct thing. And then shut the hatch. And I would dive. And the entire rest of the week, not one of my employees had any evidence that I was a Christian. Is that okay? In God's eyes? In my eyes, it was okay. I had legitimized this. I had figured it out, how to do that and still feel comfortable. But God had put a restlessness in my heart. St. Augustine says, you will remain restless until you rest in me. And that's what I finally figured out after that retreat. So you know the Bible is a very thick book, and you get very confused when you read all that stuff. But God, when He came, He sent His Son, and He said, I'm going to make this really simple for you guys, especially to a guy like me. So I'm going to summarize it in 2 simple statements. Love me with all your heart, and love your neighbor like I love you. And you know, that seems so simple, but let me tell you, that is the essence of the Bible. And if you don't get that, the rest is just commentary in that book. And when I left that retreat, I said, you know, this is what I got to do, man. So I thought, you know what, I live on a farm, so I'm kind of safe with the neighbor thing. I don't have any neighbors, so I'm kind of good, right? I had 300 neighbors, and they were right under my nose every single day. They were bleeding to death, and I didn't even see them as neighbors. And that's the reason I put up this Good Samaritan picture over here. How many employees do we have in our companies that are bleeding to death, and we stomp over them so that we can gain political or financial gain? We do it every day, but we don't see it. I didn't see it. So I said, that has to change. I have to change who and what I am. So the next thing was a paradigm shift. I came back from that retreat. How did I change? What I want to show you for a second is a paradigm shift is a simple way of seeing things that once you see it, you can never unsee it. And there's a simple thing here. I want to show you the FedEx logo to illustrate it. How many of you see the arrow in the FedEx logo? A lot of you got your hands down. If you don't know, let me show it to you. Between the E and the X, there is a white arrow pointing that direction. You see it? I see some heads nodding. Let me tell you today, now that you've seen that, every time you see a FedEx truck, you know what's the first thing your eyes are going to go to? That arrow. Why? Because it's a paradigm shift. Your mind has now seen something that it never saw before. Does it mean it wasn't there? No, it's always been there. You just didn't see it. And that's what happened to me. I just didn't get what God was really talking to my heart. That my company was a ministry platform. It was there all the time. You know, many CEOs think, you know, I got to go to Guatemala to go do ministry work. Guess what? 70% of your employees, if you have employees, do not go to church today. 70%. So where is the mission field? It's in our own backyards. We spend all this money and time in going to foreign countries, but you know what? There are lost people in our own companies. What are we doing with them? How are we ministering to them? You know what? That's that paradigm shift. I never realized it. But now that I do, I have a complete different approach to business. I see people completely different. You know, the old paradigm is you have an HR department, right? Human resource. You know what a resource is? It's something you use. And when you're done with it, you get rid of it. That's how I use people. Human resources. After this experience, I understood that if these are children of God, if these are people that God has put in my care, how should I treat them? Are they a resource? No, man. They are an incredible gift that God is giving me, and one day is going to ask me, what did I do with my influence, with my time, with my money, to influence those people in a positive way, to come closer to Him? One CEO one day said to me after a talk just like this, he came up to me with tears in his eyes. He said, Peter, I finally get it. He was a company owner, 6,000 employees in Cancun, 4 giant hotels. He came up to me and said, you know, I understand what my mission and my job description is. I said, what is it? He said, my job is to bring my employees closer to God. Can you imagine that? Never before that talk had he ever even thought about the fact that his employees were children of God. And so that's what I share with you today. I came to that realization. One of the things I want to share with you is that this concept of you don't own it. Many times I come in front of many CEOs and I say to them, you know what? You don't own your company. They're like, no, you got that wrong, buddy. I have a share certificate and I can show you I own it. Well, guess what? First question I ask him is, who gave you your health, sir? Who gave you your brain? Who keeps you going every day? Who put you in the family that you're in today? God could have easily chosen to put you in Guatemala. What then? Would you become CEO of this company? Well, maybe not. And that's the point. God owns it. He's given it to us as CEOs as a gift. But with every gift comes a responsibility. What are we going to do with that gift? And so that's the challenge that was put to me. What am I going to do? Mark Twain says it really well. He says the two most important days of your life are, number one, the day you're born, and the second one is the day you find out why. Why did God create you? Is it just to eat and drink and have kids and then go away? Or is there a greater purpose to our lives? And what is that purpose? To each person it's a little different, but it's a calling. We need to, in prayer, ask God. And that's what happened to me in that retreat. I spent 3 days on my knees praying to God, saying, God, please tell me what it is you are calling me to do. And once I found that calling, my whole life changed. I just encourage all of you, in prayer, ask God, what are you calling me to? Not what Joe or Jim wants, but what are you called to do? And once you have that calling, your entire life changes. So once I realized the calling for our company, I said, okay, what am I going to do about this? And so what we did is we drafted this statement of purpose for our company. And it says 3 things. One is we've got to deal with our customers with excellence. Number 2 is we're not afraid of making profits. And I think most companies will agree with those first 2. Any secular company in the world will say, you know what, those 2, I'm all in. But the third one is what changes everything. Why do we make profits? It's to care for people in a way that honors God. That is the core of, that's what sets this apart. And that's what's offensive to a lot of people, that last statement. Let me show you an even more offensive statement. Our core values. Our core values say that we're a company grounded in the Christian values of those things: honesty, integrity, respect, kindness, social responsibility. And that the purpose of our company, get this, is not to make money, but create eternal value. What is eternal value? Is it making money? God, I don't think, is ever going to ask me how much money I made. But He's going to ask me, what did I do with it? Did I transform it into eternal value? This statement, every one of our employees in our company has a card just like mine. And on the back side of this card is this statement. And every decision we make as a company is guided by the simple question: does that decision add to creating eternal value, yes or no? And if it's not creating eternal value, I'm not interested. I'd rather go do something else. So that's the guiding hand in our company. And it guides a lot of things. At the back, there's a book called The Business Card. And it's my simple story of what happened when we put this on the back of our business card. It changed the entire company. And this, I'm kind of going to run out of time here, but just this one quick statement. I took my business card to Indonesia the very first time. Our salesman said, you know what, we don't want those cards because that's kind of offensive. So we want 2 cards, one with it and one without it. I said, no, it's one, all or nothing. He said, well, why don't you take it first? So I have the largest customer in Indonesia, and they're Muslim. And so you can imagine, I go to a Muslim customer, and we had some business with that customer, and so we went there, and I showed my products and everything, and I gave him my business card. That night, we went to the hotel, and he said, Peter, I read your business card. And you can imagine the feeling. Oh boy, here we go. And he read it, and he said, you know what, I want to tell you how much I respect you. I respect you for having those values. I may not believe in the way you do and who God is, and I believe that we have the same God, but there's some differences in who Christ is and Muhammad. But he says, I value what you believe in. And he took me home to his home that night. And we spent the entire night speaking about faith and family. The next day we went back to the plant. He got his whole group together, and he made a decision to go 100% with our company. So one of the largest mines on the planet. And not only that, but we have a contract now for the life of the mine. It's unheard of in our industry. But is it unheard of? It's out of the capability of the master of the universe. When you say, you own me, God, and I'm in your hands. He does some amazing things, man. He's a mighty God, but what he does require of us is authenticity and faith. It's like Abram, when he gave Abram his one and only son and he gave him a knife. Abram could have said, "You're insane, man, I'm going to find me a different God." He said, "Take that knife, take him to the top of the mountain, go and kill him. I want it as a sacrifice." What did Abram do? He got there, but what did God do? He brought him to the precipice. And it's the case with many of us. He brings you to the edge and you're like, I'm going to jump, that's really scary. That's what happened to me with this car. But I said to myself, is God the master of the universe? And if he is, can he protect me? Can he support me? And that's a question each of us have to ask in our own circumstances. Are you ready to put the faith of your life in the master of the universe? And if you believe he's the master of the universe and he loves you, what do you got to fear, man? Go do it. And that's what I did. And the story, unfortunately I'm running out of time here, as I normally do, Mr. Williams. As you can know, I'm not passionate about this at all. So, but anyway, there are fears. Those of you sitting here may think, well, you know what, I love coming to these meetings and I feel really good about being part of the Christian community, but don't expect me to get out of my comfort zone, man, because that's scary out there. And it's nice, this is a kind of a closed room and there's no customers here that see me, and it's kind of okay. What happens if your customers knew you were here? How would they treat you? Hey, you're a Christian holy roller, I don't care for that. So that's the first fear you have. What happens when my customers know that I am a Christian businessman? What's going to happen? Scary, right? Next thing is, what are your employees going to say? I got 300 employees. I got Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, non-Christians, atheists. I got them all. What are they going to say when I put this on the card and I put a website and a big plaque and I ask them to sign a statement? What are they going to say? They say, he's cuckoo, man.